Unfortunately, he's not here, but his sister, Wes, yes, just stand up and present your brother. Yes, okay. His brother Terence, who is appointed in Macau, he spent more than almost 1,000 days to do the translation work. So it's really huge, but finally we'll make it this month. And because Dr. Vietado planned to do an Asia lecture tour, so we organized a nationwide lecture tour in mainland China. So from the November 10th, we have 3 days in Beijing, 2 days in Guangzhou, and then we follow in a really crazy schedule. 1 day in Chengdu, and then 1 day Kunming, then 1 day Xi'an, 1 day Taiyuan, and yesterday we were in Taiyuan, arrived late in Shenzhen. This morning we do a breakfast meeting in Shenzhen, and we just finished the first section in Hong Kong. So this is another section, and tonight 9 p.m. we should fly back to Shanghai. Tomorrow there's 2 sections waiting for us, and after that, the Monday we go to Hangzhou and Jiaxing for another 2 sections. The final section is November 22nd. It's in Xiamen. It's the last station. So I'm really say sorry to Dr. Vietado, because when I made the schedule, I didn't even think about it. He already is 63 years old. So I'm saying this is a crazy schedule. I mean, but as long as that's Dr. will say that as long as people really need us to spreading the good news of plant-based living, he will say big yes. So let's give him a really welcome. Please louder and louder. Okay, I'd like to give the microphone to Dr. Vietado. Yeah.
Which I haven't been in for a while. Well, I think the last time was in the States. I lectured in many loving huts, probably over 20, I guess, around North America and in Europe and Australia and other places. And to me, a loving hut is, in many ways, it's like a sanctuary for the human spirit, because the whole idea behind the Loving Hut restaurant is to bring plant-based foods to the world, not for profit, but really as a gift to help people spiritually, to help animals, and to help our environment and ecosystems. So I want to thank everyone here from Loving Hut. Let's give everybody from Loving Hut a big hand also. It's very much a loving effort. And it's also kind of a refreshing for me to be able to speak without having to stop every 2 sentences to have what I'm saying translated into Chinese or Cantonese. So this is kind of a nice flow. So the basic idea, how many of you have actually read the World Peace Diet? Just so I have a feeling for who I'm speaking to here. One in the corner? Nobody. Wow. All right. Good. This is great. So we have... the book is now published in 16 languages worldwide, and it's been really an honor to be able to travel to Africa and East Asia, West Asia, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand, and other places, and seeing the vegan movement growing. I think it's really beginning to develop a momentum that's very important. And so being here in China and being able to spread, as Dr. Yuli said, the good news of vegan living is, I think, in a sense, the heart and soul of the future that we have, because if we continue the path that we're going of eating animal-based foods, we won't have a future for our children. So I want to thank all of you for being here and being open to these ideas. And the main idea, I guess, underlying everything is that all of us have been born into a culture where we've been essentially required from the time we're little kids to participate in mealtime rituals that are not in our best interest. And the basic idea is that anthropologists understand that rituals are the primary way that any society transmits its values from generation to generation, and in any society where people get together and eat food, those are the most basic and powerful rituals in any culture. So looking deeply into our meals really is an adventure of looking deeply into not only understanding our society, but understanding ourselves, because we are products of our culture. So this is the great adventure, really, I think, of empowerment and of awakening and of self-discovery, is to understand the consequences of our meals. And what I've discovered in my research over the last 35 or 40 years is that animal-based agriculture is the most destructive activity that human beings engage in terms of how we're harming and devastating the outer world, but also the consequences of all that to the inner world as well. It's very harmful. So of course the good news inherent in that is that as we move toward a more plant-based way of eating and living, we sow seeds of healing on a very deep level for ourselves as individuals and also for our society. And I think there's no greater gift, actually, that we can give to the world and to ourselves and to our loved ones than to move toward a plant-based way of eating completely, and to do it for ethical reasons. It's definitely beneficial for ourselves as individuals, but I think when we do it for others, then the motivation goes much more deeply. So I guess what I'll do is just talk a little bit about the power of community, and then a little bit about the effect that animal agriculture has on the inner and outer world, and then just open it up for some questions. So essentially, when we think about community, I think the underlying idea is to realize that when we leave here and we go out into this world out here, and we see people going into restaurants and going into stores and buying meat and dairy products and eggs, there's only one reason anyone does that, and the one reason is people do that because of the communities they're raised in, right? We're products of our communities. We're just following orders that were essentially injected into us from the time we're little infants to eat these foods by very well-meaning people, our mothers and fathers and friends and relatives and neighbors and teachers and ministers, and the whole social structure, every institution in our society essentially agrees that this is what we should be doing. And so if we're just following these orders, it's not something we ever chose. In other words, when we see people eating meat and dairy products and eggs, no one ever does that out of a free choice. That's done because we're following orders. So like in my own case, I remember growing up in Massachusetts back in the 1950s and eating the typical meals of lots of meat, dairy products, and eggs, and I never questioned it because I didn't have any other reference point. I remember asking my mother when I was about 7, I said, so the kind of food we're eating, is this what everybody eats? And she said, yep, this is what everybody eats. And then she came back a few minutes later and she said something that I still remember. She said, well, there are vegetarians. She said, she kind of apologized. That's not true, there are vegetarians. And I said, what? So what are vegetarians? And she said, well, don't worry about it, you're never going to meet one. She said, I'm a lot older than you are, I never met one. And then she said, I don't know where they get their protein. So then I realized to myself, that, okay, so these people must live on some other planet where people don't need protein, or something like that. And my mother was right, I never met any vegetarians, I never heard the word again. I went away to a summer camp in Vermont where I actually participated in holding, myself, I would hold it, I was taught how to hold a chicken down with one hand and have my axe in the other hand, and cut her head off and put her through the scalding tank and eat the chickens. And so I saw the suffering that these animals endure. I participated in it. And is that not loud enough? Or can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Right.
Yeah? Good? Okay. So anyway, I saw the suffering involved in this whole process, and I remember a little later there was a dairy cow that wasn't giving enough milk. She was reached about 4 or 5 years old. And so now I understand it, but at that point I didn't really see. But when on any dairy, organic or not, when the cows reach about 4 or 5 years old, they're worn out by then because they've been forced to be pregnant and lactating simultaneously, which breaks down the health of any female mammal very quickly. So we gathered around this cow in the dairy, in the barn, and we had a gun and we just put it right there and just killed this poor cow. And cut her up and ate her. And so I participated in that also, but I never, even though I didn't like it, I thought it was horribly disgusting, really. But on the other hand, I knew this is what we're supposed to do, right? You've got to, if you can't get milk from them, you got to use them for meat. And so fortunately, I remember right after college, I left home with my younger brother, Ed, and we decided to go on a spiritual pilgrimage and walk to California. And after a few months of walking, probably a few thousand kilometers, we got to a place called The Farm in Tennessee, and it was a community of people eating a plant-based diet. They called themselves vegetarians. Actually, we would probably call them vegans because they didn't eat meat or dairy products or eggs. And but no one heard of the word vegan in 1975. That was an unknown word. So they said they're vegetarians. But that was for me the wonderful opening, because I realized that all of us have been given this gift of a human body that doesn't require any animal to suffer to get